level, it just dissolves totally. And I've got into that just through experience and through just practice. So, and I get so much benefit out of that. That's why I do it so daily, on a daily basis for so long. So, and that has gotten me to a level where it's impossible to worry about anything. That's still very good. Very good.
Michael, do you have anything to share now?
No.
Vesselina, you didn't slap him hard enough.
I don't know what to say. I guess he keeps his feelings a secret.
It's one thing I wanted to talk about today. There is a post going around about an interview with a guy by the name of, I think it's Peter Strouth, who knew Robert in the mid-'80s. From 85 on for maybe a couple of years, because he wasn't around when I met Robert in 89. Strouth said he met Robert in 85 when Robert was a maintenance person for an apartment, large apartment organization, a large set of apartments. And they started having individual satsangs in one of the empty apartments in the building in Panorama City. And then he told the story of his relationship with Robert. Said Robert was never a guru to him or a teacher, but he didn't say why he hung around with him for a few years doing things for him and with him. And then he recounts his experiences with Robert, which are similar to those that I experienced with Robert. But there's no devotion in him. And he describes all of his experiences in negative terms. Like I said, many of his descriptions were similar to what I would describe. But he had no devotion. He talks about Robert borrowing money from him and never paying it back, even though many times he approached Robert and said, "What about the money? I loaned you." And he said, Robert said, "Don't dwell in the past." Altogether, he said he spent maybe several $1,000s in loans to Robert, which turned out to not be loans because Robert said he couldn't pay him back. And he said this happened with other students too. It happened to me too. A direct loan of $7,000 plus $100 a month for 6 years, maybe $14,000. But I considered that the price of initiation. That's what it cost me to be with my guru. He couldn't work. He had Parkinson's. Gradually, he barely is able to speak and to give satsang at all. And as he would say, what can I do? I can't work. And he made it clear, telling me and a few other close students, that this is the bargain you make with the guru. The guru takes care of your spiritual development and well-being, and the student takes care of the guru's day-to-day expenses and livelihood. The student takes care of his body and that he has something to eat and a place to live. And that's the bargain. You don't regard asking for money or donations as theft from your pocket when you're in the presence of a guru. You give willingly, not expecting anything to come back in terms of money. He told about Robert's supposed womanizing. And to me, he made it sound dirty, like he was a pervert because he liked women. But I didn't see it that way at all. How is he supposed to be? He never talked about repressing sexuality or love. And he's told this one story of the woman who, after one of the satsangs at Henry's house, asked Robert, "Why did you stick your tongue down my throat, Robert?" And everybody was startled, stunned into silence. And she repeated it again. "Why did you stick your tongue down my throat, Robert?" And Robert said, "I thought you needed it." And with that, Henry got very anxious and said, "Yeah, Robert, why did you stick your tongue down her throat?" And in the story Strouth told, Henry got up and marched over in front of Robert and said, "You're a dirty old man. I don't want you ever back in this house again." And that never happened. That never happened. The point is, Strouth made personal interactions with women and students, in case of Robert, as abuse of power, or whatever. He twisted everything Robert did into something ugly, rather than something natural, beautiful, and devotional. Were there other things? Yeah, I think he talked about other things too. But he pushed this narrative that's about 5 or 6 pages long, and everybody seems to be talking about it. Godman took down his talk about Robert from the internet. Many others are complaining, saying that Strouth proved that Robert was a fake. And I didn't see any proof in there at all about him being fake. You see, I knew Robert, and Strouth never really knew him. He only looked at his activities and judged them negatively. But I felt the power of Robert's presence. I felt the power of Robert's emptiness. I felt the power of his emptiness and the rich energy of emptiness that was there all the time when you were with Robert, and how it would take hours afterwards each day that I was with him to recover from having that energy go through me. So if you ever run into discussions about Robert that are secondary to this Strouth article, just listen to the complaints that were listed, and outside of the negative way they're stated, was there anything in his activities that in any way ruined his standing as a great guru? That he borrowed money that he couldn't pay back? Like I said, that is your price of initiation. That's the price you pay to be with a guru. You support the guru in his life, and he brings energy and truth to you. And Strouth missed it all, because he never got anything out of his relationship with Robert, because he never allowed Robert to really be his teacher. He never surrendered to him in any way. And in his long discourse, he tells about all of his hatred, that Robert didn't take him anywhere. It was his failure to see the God, the energy, the emptiness in Robert, and only see a man who is struggling to survive financially and who loved women and men too. That woman later, I understand, committed suicide. And I barely remember her. But I do remember she had almost no self-confidence. There's something about someone you care for who expresses love to you that fills you with confidence and joy. That woman didn't feel joy or anything in the romanticism that Robert was offering. But others have. Others have. They feel, my guru loves me. The one I honor above all loves me. Not only does he say it, he acts it. Now, I know that other women that Robert had a relationship with, the relationship went longer and deeper, like Samantha. It went on for a year and a half or so. And in the end, she parted bitterly, saying, Robert is just a man. Robert and she were very close for a long period of time. Even when we went to lunch with Robert and I, he took me over to her place and gave her flowers and chocolates because it was her birthday. And she would show up a lot of times whenever Robert went to lunch with other people and just accidentally being in the neighborhood when he was there, so she could see him for 5 minutes and then leave. I don't know what happened between them, but it was a big explosion. One day, Robert got up in the middle of satsang and stormed out. And as he was passing by, he threw a bottle of pills at her, which shocked everyone. But she would never talk about what happened between them or the love they shared or the energies she felt or the bliss she felt, but only that she felt slighted or somehow disturbed by what he did at some point after a year and a half. She walked away. She died a year later of cancer. That this woman committed suicide, I don't think it was because Robert tried to kiss her. It was because she was in the grips of despair and would kill herself later. And Robert tried to give her a gift of love, caring, let her know she's loved deeply in order to heal the wounds deep inside of her that would later drive her to suicide. Robert often tells the story of going to Yogananda and Encinitas, and there Yogananda asked Robert, will you love me and follow me no matter what I do? And Robert thought, what is this guy asking? But he said, yes, I will. And then he tells about Yogananda's erratic behavior with different students, how he treated them all very differently. But it's important not to judge them from a mundane Christian point of view, from a Me Too perspective, but to realize the teacher sees deeply into the people that are his students and often has ideas about what they need, which may or may not be correct. But if there is in them a deep hatred or a deep anger or a deep despair, how do you treat it? by saying chant 3 times a day, by sitting in tell him to sit in zazen 6 hours a day. Psychopathology usually arises from family and trauma. It's usually based on failed relations in the past, of feeling abused or robbed or maltreated or misloved. And that's how it's cured. Not through any spiritual practice, but in relationship with a guru or someone else that you love. Like for me to have Janet repeat over and over again, I love you, in a deep and husky voice, until one day it clicked. And for the first time in my life, I felt loved by a woman. And everything changed after that. So it's not only the student that is cured or helped by the relationship with the guru, but also the guru. Most of the time, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just feel directed to do certain things. And I do them. Some people are pissed off and leave. Others come closer. So that's my story about Robert. You don't judge the action of a guru. When you have no idea what he's doing or why he's doing it. As a matter of fact, it may be 10 years of being with that guru before you understand what he's doing, because you've experienced it yourself or you've seen it happen enough times. It's not a matter of forgiving the guru, but understanding that he's operating from a different place than you until you have practiced a long, long time on the path yourself and you've matured and you're no longer a constant complainer about someone else's actions when you think that other person should act in a different way, especially if they're a guru. Because in the West, still, I think there's this ideal that you look like Ramana, you act like Ramana, when in fact they never really knew Ramana. They only know stories that disciples tell, which have almost nothing to do with who or what Ramana really was. Well, I understand Robert now, but I didn't then. But I trusted him then because I surrendered to him. Until you surrender to a guru for a period of time, you don't even begin to receive any benefits. The surrender itself is the benefit, and it allows you open to other things that he or she does to you. So there. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.